Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. So season 7 is literally right around the corner and I want to make another list or a top kind of video showcasing which champions now I feel like are the easiest to play and climb with. The way I want to do this video is list 2 champions per role so that no matter what role you're playing, you'll get a champion that I recommend. And all of these champions I feel like are not only just very good in the meta and just can actually carry games, but they're all very easy and pretty simple to just pick up and start playing and doesn't take a lot of games to really get used to them. So if you guys end up enjoying this video or finding this list useful or whatever, then let me know by hitting that like button. And also very quickly, this video will be made in collaboration once again with ProGuides, a very familiar name, where they have a website that tries to teach you and improve you as a player. I have a link down below to a free trial. Highly recommend checking it out, especially with the new ranked season just around the corner. But let's not waste any more time and start things off in the top lane. The first champion I want to talk about is going to be Nautilus. Nautilus has returned to the top lane. He's been seeming really strong and he's actually been a very successful champion in that role as well. The reason is quite simple. He has decent wave clear with his E ability combined with his W. He has an obscene amount of CC in his kit with his Q, his passive, his E, his ultimate, pretty much almost every single ability. So when it comes to ganking for a Nautilus, that's probably one of the best things a jungler can ask for because he also has some decent damage or at least base damage. And just like most tanks, he does also scale off of HP with his W, so the more HP you stack, the more technical damage you're actually going to be dishing out as well. So now let's take a quick look at what kind of build you want to run whenever you're playing Nautilus in the top lane. For the most part, you want to run relatively tanky items like a Sunfire. If you're feeling a little bit aggressive, you can definitely go for the Iceborne Gauntlet. Draw Portal can make things exceptionally annoying later on into the game for that split pushing power, but again, the main purpose is just to have a little bit of damage here or there, but primarily go for those tanky items so you can initiate, be in the front line, have your W actually kind of scale, and just be extremely annoying. But champion number 2 that I want to talk to you guys about that's also good and easy in the top lane is Darius. Now, I will admit there is a little bit of a learning curve for this champion, but it really isn't all that steep. I mean, the main thing that you really just have to understand or learn to do is utilize your Q to try and hit as many people as possible in team fights. But trust me, once you do that, all you need is just maybe 2 tanky items and you are gonna feel unkillable. You're gonna get so much insane regeneration from your Q ability, but you're still gonna be dishing out that great damage. Your passive gives you a ridiculous amount of AD, and if all else fails, you have an ultimate that just does true damage. He also has great laning presence because of his passive, how much damage it can consistently tick off, and also just getting to that point where if the passive is fully stacked, well, the person that you're facing is going to be very scared of your ultimate. All in all, Darius is a strong top laner that's easy to play and easy to pick up. Just takes a tiny little bit of games to understand how to use his Q to its fullest, but he should definitely be a good and easy pick in season 7. And very quickly, here's the kind of build that you want to run when playing Darius. You can either go for Grasp of the Undying for the Keystone, or you can go for Curse of the Colossus. It doesn't really matter too much, but with Curse of the Colossus getting nerfed, maybe specifically on Darius, this one will be better. Black Cleaver is without question one of the most core items on Darius, just by far. It just suits him absolutely perfectly, but other than that, relatively similar build to what you want to do with Nautilus. But let's move our way slightly down the map and talk about 2 jungle champions that I feel like are going to be not only good in season 7, but are also very strong and fairly easy to pick up. The first champion without any question whatsoever is going to be Vi. The only real difficult thing about Vi is just landing her Q, because that's pretty much the only skill shot that really matters in her kits. The rest of the time you're going to be just simply pressing your ultimate on a target. You'll get to them without any issues whatsoever, since it is literally a point and click, get on the target, and then you can easily land the Q since the target is right in front of your face, and you can just auto attack reset the E's. But the best thing about all this is the fact that you can build her pretty tanky while still dishing out a really good amount of damage because of just the synergy with her abilities and her W. But the biggest reasons I wanted to put her on this list is not only does she have a good jungle clear, she has great ganking potential, her ultimate is one of the easiest abilities to use in the entire game, and she just has a lot of presence. So if you end up deciding to give Vi jungle a try, then here's the build that I recommend. It is very common to actually go Thunderlords on this champion because of her aggressive nature, but you'll still be able to build tanky items and still be relatively tanky and hard to kill, so it works out quite well. But speaking of which, your items are as follows. You want to start with a sort of aggressive build with the warrior enchantment, and then slowly moving into the partially tanky, partially aggressive Triforce, and then once you have those 2 damage items that you really need, and that's all you really need, you go straight tank. Merc Boots, Deadman's Plate. Styrax is good just because of the Triforce, and then top it off with that Guardian's Angel. This build is perfect, it's got a mix of everything, and it just simply works. But champion number 2 in the jungle that I feel like will also be good right now and season 7 is gonna be Ramus. Now this guy has to be one of the definitions of an easy champion, but also effective. He's a champion that I personally hate facing because of how annoying and how simple he is. So if you want to play a champion that doesn't take an insane amount of mechanics that you can pick up and just annoy people with, get successful ganks off, well, this guy is without question the one you want to go. Imagine just rolling into a top laner that's overextending, especially one that's sort of AD, and just taunting them. It's the perfect way to initiate, it's very easy to do, and your top laner hopefully will actually follow up, and you can most likely guarantee yourself a kill, or at least get a summoner. His jungle clear obviously isn't the best in the world, so you do end up getting those attack speed reds, but it really isn't all that bad because of his W and his Q. All in all, this guy can dish out some serious pressure in the early laning phase, and I promise you he will make people tilt. So in terms of the items and build that you want to do on Ramus, Curse of the Colossus seems to be without question the best choice just because of the nature of Ramus. Again, like I said, you want to get those attack speed reds just to help your early jungle clear because it isn't really the best in the entire world either. And your items are going to be just pure tank. Cinderhulk, you have Thornmail, you have Deadman's Play, you can get Randuin's and Guardian's Angel, or you can even throw in some kind of MR item, maybe like Banshee's Veil, or even a Spirit Visage if you really want to. But now that we have the jungle and the top lane out of the way, let's move slightly more down the map and talk about mid lane. And the first champion I want to highlight in this lane that's very strong and easy to play is, with no surprise whatsoever, Annie. Annie has been seeing some serious success in certain regions, but that really should not come as a surprise because she is a very strong champion. She has great lane pressure, she has one of the best all-in bursts of any mage whatsoever and one of the best initiations, and if you use her E ability correctly, she's actually pretty hard to kill. But since Annie doesn't really have the most difficult skill shots in the entire world whatsoever, on top of this, a lot of people that will play mid lane that maybe are unexperienced, they will have a lot of mana issues with their champion. But luckily for you, Annie, as long as you CS with her, which also makes CSing easier with her Q, you also get your mana back, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. All in all, she's just very strong, has a lot of damage, great initiation, Tibbers is insanely strong, and Annie is a very strong and simple champion to pick up for mid lane. So if you decide to play some Annie, then here's the build you want to run. Since Annie is a mid-range caster, then Rod of Ages is a really great pickup because you are going to be kind of in the middle of the battle here or there, so you want to have a little bit of tankiness. After that, you can go for pretty much full offensiveness with the Luden's Echo for the movement speed, so you can roam easier, you can get those Sork boots, or you can even get maybe boots of mobility, Rabadons and Void Staff just being core items on almost any AP mid laner, and then top it off with the Zanyas, so when you initiate with your flash, you stun everyone, you can Zanyas and maybe not get insta bursted down. But champion number 2 that I want to highlight for the mid lane is going to be a little bit of a surprise, Malzahar. Now the reason I say it's a little bit of a surprise is because in season 7 or the next patch, Rylai's is getting a decent nerf. But the reason I still want to put Malzahar in this list is because not only do I feel like he's still going to be quite strong, but he really is just pretty easy to play. He really isn't the hardest champion in the entire world unless you're playing at a very high elo. All you gotta do is just summon your W, throw on your E onto the minions, and let it all do the work for you. His ultimate is a point and click. It's one of the best ways to catch someone off as well. And I mean, his kit just works together. Rylai's Crystal Scepter nerf shouldn't hit him that hard because of just how well everything else works, and Liandry's Torment is still a fantastic item on him. He is more or less the counter to tanks, which you're gonna slowly start seeing more and more to try and counter the assassin meta. And I just highly recommend playing Malzahar in the mid lane for season 7 because again, I feel like he's gonna be still quite strong and still very easy. So here's my recommended build for this guy. Morello's, Rylai's, Liandry's, your boots of choice usually being Sork boots, and again, the Void Staff and the Rabadons, very core items. And without question, you want that Deathfire in your masteries because it just works and synergizes with everything in your kit so well. But let's move our way down into the bot lane, and first let's talk about the ADC role. The first champion I want to highlight is going to be Azrael because not only do I feel like he is pretty damn easy to play, but he also gets Iceborne Gauntlet, the only ADC that gets this item, which makes him not only do a lot of damage, be very safe, but also be very tanky. You can also play his laning phase really safe by just spamming that Q from afar, so you don't even have to be forced to win the laning phase. These are the main reasons why I feel like Azrael is just not only pretty easy to play, but also very effective. There isn't much more to say other than talking about what kind of build you want to run. So like I said, Iceborne Gauntlet is without question a fantastic item on him, but if you so choose and maybe they have absolutely no 80 damage in their kit, then you can go Triforce instead. But other than that, Lucidity Boots, Manamune, Borg, Bloodthirster, Last Whisper are the items of choice. I also chose to show you guys Fervor of Battle in the masteries rather than Warlord's Bloodlust because Fervor is getting a buff and I feel like Azrael can benefit off of it quite well since his Q will apply Fervor of Battle as well. But champion number 2 for the ADC role is going to be Caitlyn. Caitlyn is not the hardest champion in the entire world. She's got one of the best laning phases because of her just raw range, so she's not that hard to pick up and make work. Now I will admit there is definitely some complexity to this champion with how you can actually utilize her abilities in a specific order to get the maximum amount of damage out, but unless again you're playing in a very high elo, it's not an absolute necessity, and it's not even all that difficult to pick up. All in all, I just kind of look at Caitlyn as being this sort of stable ADC that's right in the middle, pretty much the Annie of mid lane. Very strong, very effective, but also not very difficult to pick up. So here's my recommended build for Caitlyn. Runaan's Hurricane, Zerker Boots, Infinity Edge, Bloodthirst, Last Whisper are all fantastic items that makes her scale really well. You can actually dish out a lot of damage in team fights, and the Warlord's Bloodlust will keep your sustain up for the majority of the game. But maybe in Season 7, Fervor of Battle might be a better choice. And last but definitely not least, we have the support role. For this role, I have two champions that I feel like everyone is expecting to hear about, and the first one is gonna be Jana. Jana is not the most difficult champion in the entire world for the support role, at least when you compare it to many of the other supports like Thresh, Blitzcrank, or even someone like Brand. You just sort of chill beside your ADC, constantly shielding them whenever you can to try and make them avoid as much damage as possible, Q whenever someone's trying to get on top of them with a W as well, and worst comes to worst, you press that R button. Now having said that, I mean there is also some complexity to Jana in terms of actually predicting people with your Q ability or timing it perfectly to interrupt abilities, but again, that kind of comes in higher elos, so you don't really need to worry about that too much. All in all, Jana is just a very solid, strong, but successful support that is not all that difficult to pick up, so if you're thrown into the support role, or if you just want someone that's easy to play that doesn't take a ridiculous amount of games to understand, Jana is a great pickup. So as usual, here's my recommended build when playing Jana. Redemption is one of the best support items currently, along with Locket of the Iron Solari and Mikhail's. And Wind Speakers is probably the best keystone on these supports without question. And finally, we have the final champion and the second support that I'll talk about, which is going to be Soraka. Soraka has a very similar playstyle to Jana, where you just sort of sit in the back behind your team and just heal people up, use W whenever you possibly can, and throw Qs as well. And worst comes to worst, if someone on the other side of the map is just maybe dying or not doing super well, you press that R button and you instantly heal them as well. Her difficulty is probably the same, if not maybe even a little bit easier than Jana, so if you wanted an easy support, Soraka, look no further. Let's take a quick look at her build as well. You can see that it's actually very similar to what you want to do on Jana, so not much else to say there other than Redemption is great and Solari is still fantastic. But either way guys, that is about it for this video. Hopefully this one has helped you to decide what champion you want to play in what role. Again, if you don't have maybe the best mechanics or you don't have a lot of time to invest into the game or champions, these are the champions that I recommend that are easy to play, very effective, and can definitely carry games that don't require just an absurd amount of game knowledge to do. So if you guys end up enjoying this video, then let me know by hitting that like button. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the video and which champion that you feel like you're gonna main in Season 7. But either way, I thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you for the next video. Peace.